Now we're going to talk about the actual curriculum. Okay, now we're going to talk about the actual Al-Arabiyyah to Bayna Yadayk, this curriculum. And most of what I'm going to mention here, I've taken directly from the book in the introduction. Like I said last time, it's in Arabic, and I'm just quickly going to translate some points, not all of it. Yes, some of the important points. طيب. So here we have, this is where it starts, تعريف بالسلسلة it's called. Okay, this is where it starts. Just 1 second. One moment please. Okay. طيب. تعريف بالسلسلة is called سلسلة العربية بين يديك. The first thing they mention are أهداف السلسلة. What are the objectives of this particular سلسلة or this series? They say تهدف السلسلة إلى تمكين الدارس من الكفايات التالية: الكفاية اللغوية والكفاية الاتصالية والكفاية الثقافية. So what they mention is that the objective of this course is to give the student 3 competencies. Okay, and these are important for you to know. Number 1, linguistic competency. Okay, which are the 4 skills: reading, writing, listening and speaking, and also a focus on the 3 domains of learning Arabic. We mentioned that last time in the first event that we did. The 3 domains, which are sounds, grammar, and vocabulary. Okay, so giving the person linguistic competency in those 3 things. Okay, this all of you I'm sure are familiar with. Most courses, this is what their objective is, but there are 2 other things as well that this particular series gives great importance to, which I think is spot on. The second, one of them is the conversational competency. Okay, so you could have the linguistic competency, you can know a lot of vocab, a lot of grammar. Okay, but that doesn't mean you can have conversations with people or you can communicate. As a matter of fact, I think this would translate better to as communication competency. Okay, communicational competency, having the ability to communicate in the Arabic language, may it be via speech or it may be via writing. Yes, whatever it is, being able to put across your thoughts in the Arabic language and having that interaction with people. A lot of the courses, they don't focus on this, or a lot of the series, they don't focus on this. Another important aspect or competency that you should, inshallah ta'ala, acquire towards the end of this course, or towards the end of this series, may I say, is the cultural competency. And I remember when I did the training with them, they really focused on this. They said that you cannot separate between a language and its culture. And this is true. Those people that want to learn English, along with the English comes their culture, maybe their holidays and what they believe in, what have you. So the same thing here. A lot of the series or a lot of the books out there, yes, that are being taught in the West, they try to decouple between the Arabic language and its religious identity. You can't do this. Okay? Arabic language has a religious identity, which is Islamic identity. So within this book, they try to ingrain that by giving you the cultural competency so that you know not just the Arab culture, but also the Islamic identity that comes with that, which obviously the Arab culture is heavily influenced by. Okay, so that's an important point. And alhamdulillah, you find that within the book. Another thing that they mentioned, they talked about the target audience for this series, and just quickly mentioned for total beginners, they said starts for total beginners, and it's for people that either are studying full-time or part-time in an establishment or by themselves. They said this is for all of them. Okay, لغة السلسلة, the language of this series. Then he said that تعتمد السلسلة على اللغة العربية الفصيحة. In this series you will learn العربية الفصحى, no dialects. Okay, the عربية الفصحى is what's being taught in this series. لا تستخدم أي لهجة, it doesn't use any dialect from the other Arabic dialects. Again, something that sets this particular series apart. What does the silsila consist of? We know 8 levels, 8 books, 4 levels. Okay, each level being 2 books. They've got student books, 2 student books, and 1 teacher book as well. They also have a dictionary, and they also have audios for practicing pronunciation and listening skills. We'll get to that later. خامسا موجهات السلسلة. These are basically the things that set this series apart, and I'll talk about that when we get to strengths, inshallah. I'll talk about that when we get to strengths of this series. Okay. سادسا الزمن المخصص لتدريس السلسلة بالتقريب. How much time should be dedicated to this series? Okay, so the authors, they actually have numbers for this. Okay, so they say in total the series consists of 576 lessons and 24 exams. In total, 60 lessons. So they say that in a program where someone spends 20 hours, then they should be able to complete the series within 24 weeks. That's about half a year, but that's 20 hours. Okay, but this is where we are. Okay, in a program that gives 8 hours. Okay, 8 hours. Then that should roughly take 75 weeks, which is close to the 80 weeks that we have set out for this program. 10 weeks for every book, in total 80 weeks. So some of you asked, how many hours should I spend on this? Answer to that is you need to have at least minimum 8 hours. But that is not 100% enough. We'll talk about that later. This is their recommendation, but to truly become fluent, then you have to have a level of immersion, yes, which is more than this. But if we're talking about formal hours of learning, this doesn't include what you do outside class. Formal hours of learning, it should be 8 hours. In our case, we have 4 hours, a lecture, and also a workshop, 4 hours altogether, and the other 4 hours for your assignments and exercises and doing your practice every single week. So if you have 8 hours available, alhamdulillah. طبعا, we also going to have a lot of different exercises, supplemental exercises that you can do to up the pace and spend more time on it if you have that time. But minimum 8 hours is required. According to the recommendations of the book itself, what are the lessons? What's the structure of this series? How are these lessons? What are they about? Then they talk about this in the book. They talk about how the book is structured, and we'll quickly go over that, inshallah ta'ala, in a very quick way. It mentions that in every wahda, every unit, you have 16 lessons. 16 lessons, okay? So it starts with a dialogue, a hiwar. Okay, this is the first hiwar, that's the first hiwar. This is the first unit, al-wahdat al-ula, tahiyyat wa ta'aruf. This is the first hiwar, dialogue. After dialogue, you have some practice on vocabulary. Okay? So, tadribat wa mufradat. The exercises and the vocabulary is over here, 1 page. So, these are 2 pages. The dialogue and the practice. And then again, another dialogue, another practice. Another dialogue, another practice. So, there you have it. 3 dialogues, and each one has a page of practice. Okay, so that's when it comes to the dialogues. After the dialogues, you have another 2 pages for practicing the vocabulary. Another 2 pages for practicing vocabulary, where 1 page is actually supplemental vocab. We'll talk about that as well. Okay. Then after that, you have the grammatical structures or templates according to the dialogue itself. Okay. And this is how the book works. The book gives you a template and you fill in the blanks. You change the words. Okay, so هل أنت باكستاني? You can change that to any country. You can say أمريكي, whatever. Okay, and then you answer. So it's kind of like template sentences, and then you practice using different vocabulary. Okay, so that التراكيب النحوية in total is 4 pages of exercise, grammar exercises, which we're going to do in the workshop. Then we have الأصوات وفهم المسموع, sounds, recognizing sounds. Okay, 3 pages. Then we have الكلام, speaking exercises after that, for 3 pages. Okay, listening exercises for 3 pages. فهم المسموع, listening, building your listening skills. Then we have الكلام, speaking exercises. الكلام for 3 pages as well. And then we have القراءة, reading. Okay, reading exercises also for 3 pages. Okay, which you're going to do as homework. So the القراءة and the listening you do as homework. Grammar, speaking, writing, you do it at the workshop. Okay, and then finally we have the writing, al-kitaba, for 4 pages. So that gives us a total of what? Of 16 pages for every single unit, and then it goes on to the next unit. After every 2 units there's an exam. After every 2 units there's an exam, which I'll show you in the course calendar. Inshallah, we are going to approach in a different way, and we'll talk about that in a moment. Okay, so this particular series, if you like, what are the strengths? What are the strengths of this series? It has many strengths, mashallah. First, it's a non-profit. organization that has done it with a very noble mission of spreading the Arabic language. May Allah reward them. Secondly, this series is internationally recognized. It's approved by the ministry, the Saudi Ministry of Education, and is taught at many universities, including my university. They teach it at the Ma'had. Okay, so you can rest assured that it is internationally recognized and it has stood the test of time. It has Islamic identity, again, a very big plus for this particular series, the Islamic identity part. Okay, it's well-rounded and complete. Okay, as opposed to the Medina books. The Medina books, my dear brothers and sisters, it's part of a bigger curriculum at the Islamic University of Medina, and it's just the grammar side of things. So it's not the full series. It's not what the students at the Islamic University learn completely. They only take Medina book for their grammar subject, and there's many other subjects that they take. Whereas Al-Arabiyyah Bayna Yadayk is actually a full curriculum by itself. It's very practically oriented. Okay, it's oriented, very practical. It's specifically when you come to the grammar, it focuses on grammar rules that you actually need. Okay, not like doing other books of grammar whereby you learn a grammar concept but you never see it in real life. Okay, it's got a very good vocabulary selection that's very relevant to your day-to-day lives. It's full of resources. Yes, they have the full audio available for level 1. Actually, for all levels, actually. You just go to the website, this link, and these are all of the audios. So you could download all of them as one zip file, as you can see. So when you buy the book and you want to access the audio, they actually have a completely dedicated website for that, where you can go to every unit and listen to the audio. So I find that very neat. They've got an Arabic sounds workbook as well with audio. They have a dictionary with all of the words that come within the series and no words that are not in the series. They've got a student placement test on their website as well, albeit there are better ones like the one we have that we took from the book itself. Is more in depth, but the one on the website at least tells you if book 1 is right for you or not. And also the PDFs. It's highly engaging. It's high focus on Arabic sounds as well, is a big plus. It's suitable for total beginners. It's got a scaffolded approach, as in it builds up. Okay, it builds up in stages very well. And it also empowers teachers, Allahumma barik. It trains the teachers. It gives seminars. They give you PowerPoint slides. They do placement tests, even for teachers as well. So mashallah, these are the strengths. There are a few weaknesses, so a few things that we have to supplement, we have to add to in order to complete it, and that's in my opinion. Number 1, there's in my opinion, a lack of grammar in level 1, because some of the students I've taught level 1, and I taught them a bit of grammar on the side as well without overpowering them. When they got to level 2, almost all of the grammar in level 2 we already took at level 1. So it was quite basic. So when you go to level 2, that's when they introduce the most basic of grammar concept. So I believe that's something that can be worked on. That's why we might top that up a little bit. Likewise, it doesn't teach you how to read Arabic. And for those of you that don't know how to read Arabic, then the book itself, that philosophy is that you don't need to know how to read Arabic, just memorize the word. Okay? They expect you to memorize the whole word as is. That's why when it comes to the writing exercises, the kitabah towards the end in unit 1, it's quite useless if you know how to read, because they're trying to teach you how to recognize Arabic letters. Okay? Later on in unit 9, 10, it becomes a bit more challenging. It's actually about writing expression. Okay? That's a minus. Also, the exercises, they can be increased. Okay? And this is something that relates to almost all curriculums. So the exercises they're just about enough to get the concept, to understand the concept. But in my opinion, they're not enough to reach a level of automaticity. Yes? What's automaticity? It basically is the ability to do things without occupying the mind with low-level details required, allowing it to become an automatic response or habit. It is usually the result of learning, repetition, and practice. The best example I can give is like driving a car. Yes, you can take driving lessons and pass the exam just by taking the driving lessons. Yes, but the truth has to be said, you will still be struggling with driving, and you won't be a confident driver at least for another 6 months. Yes, and you will not gain that confidence in driving whereby you're not thinking about the small details. Yes, when you're thinking about small details, that means you didn't reach automaticity. Automaticity is when your brain takes care of all of the small details and you do everything automatically, just like driving a car. You won't reach that level unless you're maybe on the road for 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 months. Yes, same thing applies here. These curriculums, they'll give you up to a level whereby you grasp the concept. Okay, but they won't make you reach a level of automaticity. That is upon you to practice, to immerse yourself in the language, okay? And we hopefully are going to help you with that by adding a lot of extra exercises that are very specific to a particular skill. And the reason why most curriculums are like this is, number one, because they are in book format. They're restricted by print. If they tried to add the amount of exercise that you need, book one would be 5 volumes. Yes? But alhamdulillah, with electronic exercises, the limit is our imagination. I can give you an exercise on Google Classroom that's electronic, and it could have 200 questions. You can keep on going until you get tired. Yes? And it doesn't take up any space. So this is alhamdulillah some of the benefits of technology. They are restricted by print. They can't add too much exercises. They have to make sacrifices because of that. But that's not the case for us. And also they assume that you will use what you've learned in your daily life. Okay, so again, these curriculums are being taught in Saudi universities and students are immersed in the language, but that's not the case for you. So that's why we try to create the environment with the skill building workshops. Okay, we try to create the environment.